If you want to know why Japan is the only developed nation on Earth where the government actually measures your waistline by law, and why their visceral fat rates are a fraction of ours, stop looking at exercise programs. Stop looking at weight loss drugs. Look at what they put on the table before 8 a.m. Japan has the longest healthy life expectancy of any country on the planet. Their adult obesity rate sits at 4.5%. Ours in the West, over 40%. And here's what nobody talks about. Japan didn't achieve this with gyms and diets. They achieved it with 5 morning rules, so deeply embedded in their culture that most Japanese people don't even realize they're following a metabolic protocol. And a 2024 study from Scientific Reports just confirmed something stunning. Skipping this exact type of morning meal doesn't just make you gain weight. It physically rewires how your fat cells store lipids, shifting your body toward visceral fat accumulation at the molecular R level. Here's what the Western fitness industry has convinced you of. Breakfast is optional. Skip it, they say. Intermittent fasting is king. Your body doesn't need food until noon. But after nearly 15 years in emergency medicine and studying metabolic syndrome across populations, I've watched something deeply troubling unfold in my own patients. The people who chronically skip breakfast or eat the wrong one aren't just heavier. They're carrying a specific type of fat that doesn't show up on a regular scale. It's visceral fat, metabolically active tissue wrapped around their organs, silently driving inflammation, insulin resistance, and cardiovascular disease. And their gut microbiomes are devastated. Meanwhile, Japan treats breakfast as the most important medical intervention of the day, and the science is catching up to prove they've been right all along. Hi, I'm Dr. Leana. I'm an emergency medicine physician and metabolism researcher. And after years of treating patients whose blood work screamed metabolic disaster, despite looking perfectly normal on the outside, I realized our entire approach to morning nutrition was fundamentally backwards. We've been told to eat fast, eat convenient, or eat nothing at all. The Japanese do the opposite. They eat slow, they eat fermented, and they eat with deliberate structure. After reviewing over a dozen peer-reviewed studies on the Japanese dietary pattern, I can tell you this. Their morning rules don't just prevent weight gain. They actively dismantle the biological machinery that creates visceral fat. And they rebuild the gut bacteria that Western diets have systematically destroyed. Side note before we continue, if you want this turned into an actual protocol you can follow day by day, the 21-day Metabolic Reversal Protocol and Cellular Freedom Guide are both on screen via QRN and first in the description. Now, back to the scale. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 5 specific morning rules that Japanese culture uses, whether they realize it or not, to eliminate visceral fat and restore gut health from the inside out. You'll learn why Japan passed a federal law in 2008 that literally requires employers to measure their workers' waistlines and the metabolic science behind it, the first bite rule that Japanese families follow every morning that floods the gut with short-chain fatty acids before the day even begins, how a specific fermented morning food increases bifidobacterium and bacillus colonies while simultaneously decreasing harmful enterobacteriaceae measured in clinical trials within just 14 days. The portion architecture principle called Ichiju sansai that makes overeating physically difficult without any willpower involved. And the 2024 study proving that skipping this type of breakfast doesn't just add body fat. It reprograms your fat cell's molecular clock to store lipids at an accelerated rate. Quick favor before we get into the 5 rules. I keep hearing from viewers who've watched several of my videos and didn't realize they weren't subscribed. Would you take 2 seconds and double check right now? It costs nothing, and it helps this channel put real, science-backed health information in front of more people who need it instead of the usual nonsense. Thank you. Before I give you the 5 rules, you need to understand why the morning window is so metabolically powerful, because without this context, the rules won't make sense. Your body runs on an internal clock, a circadian rhythm that governs when hormones are released, when enzymes activate, and critically, when your fat cells are most receptive to either storing or burning energy. Between roughly 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., your body is in what researchers call a metabolic priming window. Here's the analogy I use with patients. Think of your metabolism like a furnace in a cold house. When you wake up, the furnace is cold. Your cortisol is high from the overnight fast. Your insulin sensitivity is at its peak. And your gut bacteria are essentially waiting for instructions. What you feed them in this window determines the entire metabolic trajectory of your day.
If you feed the furnace high-quality fuel, fermented foods, fiber, plant compounds, it ignites clean and burns efficiently for hours. Your gut produces short-chain fatty acids, your insulin response stays stable, and your body preferentially burns stored fat for energy. But if you feed it processed carbohydrates, refined sugar, or nothing at all, the furnace misfires. Cortisol stays elevated. Insulin spikes erratically when you finally do eat. And your fat cells, particularly the visceral ones surrounding your organs, receive molecular signals to increase lipid storage, not decrease it, increase it. This is precisely what researchers at the University of Hiroshima demonstrated in 2024. They found that skipping breakfast disrupted the peripheral molecular clock in adipose tissue, leading to enhanced de novo lipogenesis, the creation of brand new fat from scratch at exactly the wrong times of day. Rule 1. Never skip the morning meal, the first fuel principle.
In Japanese culture, skipping breakfast is considered almost irresponsible. The word for breakfast in Japanese, asagohan, literally translates to morning rice. It's not an optional snack, it's the foundation of the day. And the science validates this completely. A 2024 study published in Scientific Reports using controlled animal models confirmed that breakfast skipping, combined with sedentary behavior, caused significant visceral fat accumulation, even when total caloric intake was identical to the breakfast eating group. The mechanism? Disruption of circadian lipid metabolism genes. When you skip breakfast, the molecular machinery that controls when your fat cells store and release energy gets thrown out of rhythm.
A separate study found that habitual breakfast skippers had persistently elevated cortisol concentrations throughout the entire morning and afternoon.
Cortisol is your stress hormone, and chronically elevated cortisol is independently associated with visceral fat deposition. Eating breakfast triggers the normal cortisol decline your body expects. Skip it, and the stress signal stays locked on. The Japanese rule is simple. Eat within 60 to 90 minutes of waking. Every single day. Non-negotiable. Rule 2. Start with something fermented. The living food first principle. This is perhaps the most powerful rule, and it's the one Westerners violate every single morning. In a traditional Japanese breakfast, the first food to hit the gut is alive, either miso soup, natto, or pickled vegetables. Always fermented, always containing living microorganisms.
Why does this matter? Because your gut microbiome is most receptive to colonization in the morning, when the mucosal lining has been regenerating overnight and competition from recently consumed food is at its lowest. A clinical intervention study from Japan followed healthy adults who consumed miso soup containing natto every morning for 14 days. The results, published in Microbial Ecology in Health and Disease, were striking. Within 2 weeks, fecal counts of Bacillus and Bifidobacterium, two of the most beneficial bacterial genera, increased significantly. Simultaneously, counts of Enterobacteriaceae, a family that includes many pathogenic bacteria, decreased significantly. But here's what makes this even more interesting. The researchers also measured short-chain fatty acids in the participants' stool. Acetic acid and propionic acid both increased significantly by day 14th. Meanwhile, harmful putrefactive metabolites, indole, p-cresol, ammonia, and sulfide, all decreased. In plain language, within 2 weeks of eating fermented food at breakfast, their guts were producing more anti-inflammatory compounds and fewer toxic ones. Their intestinal environment measurably improved. A separate study published in Nutrients found that when miso was added to a Western-style, high-fat, high-sugar diet, it increased short-chain fatty acid levels in the small intestine, stimulated anti-inflammatory immune cells called ILC3s, and protected intestinal barrier integrity. The researchers concluded that a single traditional Japanese fermented food could partially counteract the gut-damaging effects of a Western diet. The rule? Your first food of the day should be fermented. Miso soup is ideal. 1 tablespoon of unpasteurized miso dissolved in warm, not boiling, water. Add natto or pickled vegetables alongside it. Rule 3. Build your plate in structure. Ichiju sansai. This third rule is architectural, not nutritional, and it's arguably the reason Japanese people control portions without ever thinking about it. Ichiju sansai translates to 1 soup, 3 sides. Every traditional Japanese breakfast follows this framework. 1 bowl of miso soup, the fermented element, 1 serving of protein, fish, tofu, natto, or egg, 2 small vegetable sides, pickled vegetables, simmered greens, seaweed salad, 1 serving of rice or barley rice blend. This isn't a diet rule, it's a plate design philosophy. By distributing food across multiple small dishes instead of 1 large plate, the brain registers variety and completeness, triggering satiety signals far earlier than the same total volume of food served on a single plate. The structural format also guarantees nutritional diversity in every sitting. Probiotics from fermented sides, omega-3s from fish, soluble fiber from seaweed, and resistant starch from cooled or barley-blended rice. A 2025 study from Hyogo Prefecture, analysing 577 middle-aged Japanese adults, found that those who consistently ate well-balanced meals with this structure had significantly lower BMI, better metabolic markers, and stronger associations with appropriate weight maintenance. The structure was the diet. The Japanese don't count macros, they don't weigh food. The framework does all of that silently. Rule 4. Drink green tea with your morning meal, the thermogenic primer. In Japan, breakfast without green tea is like a car without an ignition switch, and the science explains why this tradition persists. Green tea catechins, particularly EGCG, do something your morning coffee cannot. They activate brown adipose tissue, the metabolically active fat that burns stored white fat as fuel through thermogenesis. A landmark study from the University of Geneva found that green tea extract increased 24-hour energy expenditure by 4% and shifted fuel metabolism from carbohydrate burning to fat burning. Caffeine alone at the same dose produced 0 effect. It was specifically the catechin-caffeine combination that amplified the thermogenic signal. But here's the timing nuance that matters. Drinking green tea with breakfast, not on an empty stomach, allows the catechins to work synergistically with the incoming nutrients. The fiber from the meal slows absorption, extending the thermogenic window. The amino acids from protein stabilize the caffeine release, preventing the crash. And the fermented foods ensure the gut has the bacterial diversity to metabolize the polyphenols effectively. The rule? Drink 2 to 3 cups of green tea alongside your morning meal. Brew at 175 degrees Fahrenheit, never boiling. Add a squeeze of lemon to increase catechin absorption up to 6-fold. Never add cow's milk. Casein proteins bind catechins and slash absorption by up to 80%. If you want maximum potency, use matcha instead of steeped green tea. Because you consume the entire ground leaf, you ingest up to 137 times more EGCG per serving. Rule 5. Measure your waist, not your weight, the Metabo principle. In 2008, Japan did something no other country on earth has done before or since. They passed the Metabo Law, a federal regulation requiring every citizen between the ages of 40 and 74 to have their waist circumference measured during annual health checkups. Men who exceed 85 centimetres and women who exceed 90 centimetres are flagged for free counselling and dietary intervention. This isn't a punishment system. Nobody goes to jail for being overweight. But it reflects a fundamentally different philosophy about health, one that prioritises prevention over treatment and recognises that visceral fat, not body weight, is the true driver of metabolic disease. The reason I'm including this as a morning rule is that the Japanese approach to waist monitoring has created a national consciousness about abdominal fat that shapes breakfast choices daily. When you know your waistline is being tracked, and when you understand that visceral fat is the measurement that matters, you make different food decisions every single morning. I tell my own patients to measure their waist circumference once per week, first thing in the morning, before eating. Place the tape at the level of your navel. Track it over time. This single measurement tells you more about your metabolic health than any bathroom scale ever could. If your waist is shrinking, but your weight is stable, you are losing visceral fat and gaining lean tissue. That is the definition of metabolic improvement. The Japanese understood this instinctively, centuries before we had the science to prove it. Their morning meal isn't random, it's a metabolic prescription. Now let me walk you through the 5 rules. Let me cement these 5 rules with the specific studies that support them. Study 1, Scientific Reports 2024. Researchers demonstrated that breakfast skipping combined with physical inactivity caused visceral fat accumulation by altering the circadian rhythm of lipid metabolism-related genes. The timing of the first meal directly influenced how the body's molecular clock governed fat storage. Skipping breakfast didn't just fail to prevent fat gain, it actively promoted it through disrupted gene expression. Study 2, Microbial Ecology in Health and Disease. 8 Japanese adults consumed miso soup with natto every morning for 14 days. Fecal analysis showed significant increases in Bacillus and Bifidobacterium populations, significant decreases in Enterobacteriaceae, increased short-chain fatty acid production, acetic and propionic acid, and decreased putrefactive toxic metabolites. Measurable gut remodeling in just 2 weeks. Study 3, Nutrients 2024. Miso supplementation added to a high-fat, high-sugar Western-style diet increased short-chain fatty acids in the small intestine, stimulated type 3 innate lymphoid cells, ILC3s, and decreased intestinal inflammation, partially counteracting the damage of a Western diet with a single fermented food. Study 4, University of Geneva, American Journal of Clinical Nutrition.
Green tea extract containing 90 milligrams EGCG and 50 milligrams caffeine increased 24-hour energy expenditure by 4%, shifted respiratory quotient from 0.88 to 0.85 carbohydrate to fat burning, while caffeine alone at the same dose produced no effect whatsoever. Study 5, Nutrition Journal, 132 country global analysis. The traditional Japanese diet score, measuring adherence to fish, soy, rice, seaweed, vegetables, and low red meat/dairy, was inversely correlated with obesity rates, p less than 0.001, after controlling for GDP, education, healthcare spending, and lifestyle factors. Countries that ate more like Japan were measurably leaner. This is not folk medicine. These are quantifiable, reproducible, laboratory-confirmed biological changes. Here's exactly what to put on your table tomorrow morning. Step 1, wake up. Within 60 to 90 minutes, sit down to eat. Step 2, miso soup, first food. 1 tablespoon of unpasteurized miso paste dissolved in 8 ounces of warm water or dashi broth, heated to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit, never boiling, which kills the probiotics. Add a handful of dried wakame seaweed, diced tofu, and sliced scallions. This delivers live bacillus bacteria, prebiotic fiber, and short-chain fatty acid precursors. Step 3, natto or pickled vegetables. Serve 50 grams of natto, 1 standard pack, with a dash of soy sauce and mustard. If natto isn't available, serve 30 to 50 grams of naturally fermented pickled vegetables, nukazuke, rice bran pickles, or kimchi. The goal is a second source of living bacteria. Step 4, protein plus vegetable sides. 1 serving of grilled fish, salmon, mackerel, or sardines, roughly 100 grams, or 2 eggs. 1 small side of steamed greens or simmered vegetables. Step 5, barley rice blend.
1 bowl of mugi gohan, white rice mixed with barley at a 70-30 ratio. The barley provides beta-glucan fiber that feeds butyrate-producing bacteria throughout the morning. Step 6, green tea. Brew 2 cups of sencha or 1 cup of matcha at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Add a squeeze of lemon, no cow's milk. Step 7, measure. Once per week before eating, wrap a soft tape measure around your waist at navel height. Record it. Track the trend over 8 weeks. Tip 1, temperature discipline. The single most common mistake is killing your food's beneficial properties with heat. Miso paste goes into warm broth after removing from heat. Matcha is whisked in 175 degrees Fahrenheit water, never boiling. This preserves live bacteria and delicate catechins that boiling water destroys. Tip 2, front-load your fiber. Eating the miso soup and vegetable sides before your rice and protein creates a fiber barrier in your stomach that slows glucose absorption. Japanese research has shown this sequencing technique reduces post-meal blood sugar spikes by up to 30% compared to eating the same foods in reverse order. Tip 3, consistency over intensity. Your gut microbiome restructures itself gradually over 4 to 8 weeks. Eating this breakfast once and expecting transformation is like going to the gym once and expecting muscle. The Japanese aren't lean because they ate fermented food yesterday. They eat it every single morning, every single day, year after year. The consistency is the mechanism. Tip 4, make it the night before. The most common objection I hear is time. Miso soup takes 3 minutes. Natto comes pre-packaged. Pickled vegetables are pre-made. Rice can be cooked in a timer-set rice cooker overnight. A full Japanese breakfast takes less time than waiting in a drive-through line. Tip 5, hara hachi bu. Stop at 80% fullness. It takes 20 minutes for your gut's satiety hormones to reach your brain. When you stop at 80%, you feel perfectly satisfied 20 minutes later, not stuffed. Studies on Okinawan populations practicing this principle show 15 to 20% lower caloric intake without any sense of deprivation. Mistake 1, replacing whole foods with supplements. I see this constantly. People buy probiotic capsules and green tea extract pills instead of eating actual miso, natto, and matcha. A probiotic supplement gives you 1 or 2 strains in dormant form. Many don't even survive stomach acid. Actual miso gives you multiple living bacterial species, plus enzymes, plus amino acids, plus short-chain fatty acids, plus prebiotic fiber. There is no capsule on Earth that replicates what a bowl of real miso soup delivers. Mistake 2, doing it for a week and quitting. Your gut bacteria don't restructure overnight. The Japanese clinical trial saw measurable changes at 14 days, and the full metabolic benefits compound over months and years. If you try this for 5 days and see no dramatic change on the scale, that doesn't mean it isn't working. Your gut is remodeling. Your visceral fat is being addressed at the cellular level. Trust the timeline. Mistake 3, using pasteurized miso. Check the label. If your miso paste has been pasteurized or says heat treated, it contains 0 live bacteria. You're getting flavor, not function. Look for unpasteurized, refrigerated miso in the cold section of your grocery store, not the shelf-stable version. Mistake 4, measuring only body weight. Your bathroom scale cannot distinguish between muscle, water, bone, and organ fat. You could lose 2 inches off your waistline while the scale barely moves because you've replaced dense visceral fat with lean tissue. Waist circumference is your true metric. Measure it, track it, ignore the scale. Here's what I need you to internalize before you close this video. Visceral fat accumulation is not a life sentence. Gut microbiome damage is not permanent, and metabolic decline is not an inevitable consequence of aging. Japan has proven this at the population level, not through expensive medications, not through extreme exercise, and not through starvation diets. They've proven it through 5 simple morning rules practiced with unwavering consistency. The patients I've seen transform their metabolic profiles weren't genetically special. They weren't disciplined superhumans. They simply changed what they put on the table between 6 and 9 a.m., and they did it every single day. The biological systems that burn visceral fat, produce short-chain fatty acids, diversify your gut microbiome, and stabilize your metabolic hormones, they exist inside your body right now. They are not broken, they're not missing, they're waiting for signals. And those signals come from your morning plate. You can start sending them tomorrow. Let's cement every key takeaway. 1, never skip breakfast. A 2024 study confirmed that breakfast skipping reprograms your fat cell's molecular clock to store more visceral fat, independent of total caloric intake. Eat within 60 to 90 minutes of waking. 2, start with something fermented.
Miso soup with natto increased bifidobacterium and bacillus while decreasing harmful bacteria within 14 days. Short-chain fatty acids rose, toxic metabolites fell. Your first food of the day should contain living microorganisms. 3. Structure your plate with Ichiju sansai, 1 soup, 3 sides, plus rice. This framework controls portions naturally, guarantees nutritional diversity, and triggers satiety without counting anything. 4. Drink green tea with breakfast. The catechin-caffeine combination increases energy expenditure by 4% and shifts metabolism from carbohydrate to fat burning. Brew at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Add lemon, no dairy milk. 5. Measure your waist, not your weight. Japan's Metabo Law recognized that waist circumference, not BMI, not scale weight, is the true marker of metabolic risk. Measure at your navel weekly. Track the trend over 8 weeks. 6. Consistency is everything. The Japanese aren't lean because of one breakfast. They're lean because of 365 breakfasts a year, every year for their entire lives. Your gut bacteria need 4 to 8 weeks to restructure. Your visceral fat responds over months. Start today and don't stop. Your metabolic health is not predetermined by your genes, your age, or your past. It's shaped overwhelmingly by the choices you make every single morning. You have more power over this than anyone has told you. If this information changed how you think about your morning meal, I need your help with 2 things. First, share this video with someone who starts every day with a sugary cereal or an empty stomach. Over 25% of adults in the West skip breakfast entirely, and most of them have never heard about these principles. Second, subscribe and give this video a like so this channel can keep reaching people who want real science, not marketing dressed up as health advice. If you want to go deeper, check out my previous video on how specific foods activate your body's brown fat furnace and eliminate visceral fat from the inside out. The link is right here on screen. I'll see you in the next one. Dr. Leana out.